Hello. We're continuing on with the CAPSYS capture demonstration. We're going to take a look at the server side of things right now. We just finished up with the client side, the web experience for the end user. Now we're going to take a look at the server side and try and get a glimpse of how things are configured to make all the things that you saw occur on the web client actually occur behind the scenes. So to do that, we have a management console we call the CAPSYS Capture Server Manager. So I'm logged into it right now, and when you first log in using the system administrator credentials, you'll be presented with this screen. And this screen gives us kind of a view in to the server environment to configure it, administer it, manage it, and all the things you typically would want to achieve with an administration tool. So to begin, we're going to take a look at just taking this apart component by component to understand what comprises of the CAPSYS Capture Server Manager. To start with, we have what's called a server group. And a server group is a logical grouping of one or more servers in an entity that allows us to have a server or group of servers work on batch or document profiles. So a server group is an example here. I've named it Azure Local, and this particular server group has a server name assigned to it, RD00155D, blah, blah, blah. You can see that here. Once this server has been added to the server group, you can administer this server through this server manager tool. You can start the service, you can stop the service, you can set up the server settings, and you can remove the server from the group, and then of course add the server back. This is an important concept to grasp because this is how one of the ways we can scale a CAPSYS system. So we can have multiple what we call QX servers work together in cooperation to add to the performance of an overall CAPSYS capture server system. So if today my requirements for my batch and document profiles and my number of users indicate that I need at least one server to satisfy reasonable performance, in 60 days from now I get a request to say I need to add more batch profiles, I need to add more concurrent users, I need to do some heavy OCR, I need to do more database lookups. It may require that you add not just additional processors to your server, but actually add an entirely new CAPSYS server to your configuration. So to do that, you procure a new server instance from CAPSYS. We generate a new license file, and that license file will allow you to have another server under the management of this console. In that scenario, if I want two or more servers to work in cooperation against the same batch profiles located over here on the right hand of the screen, I would use this Add Server button and go out to my network after the CAPSYS server installation was completed, of course, and the license file added to the system. I'd browse for that server out in the network, hit OK when I found it, click on it, then click OK, and the new server would show up directly to the right of my first server. And then I would have the same controls, the start and the stop of that particular server, but it's all being treated as one virtual server, if you will, working in cooperation to process cases that are assigned to this server group. So these profiles are assigned to a server group, and I have one or more servers that work on that server group. And it will use a least used type algorithm to determine which cases get worked by server A or server B. It's all transparent to the end user. They don't need to know or log into a different server. It's all treated as one big server. And the same old's true if 6 months from now I get more work that comes in and I determine I need another server to scale the environment. I can add a third server to this configuration and scale the system outward by having one or more servers work on these batch profiles in a simultaneous type fashion. So that's an important distinguishing feature of CAPSYS versus other capture solutions in the marketplace. So that addressed a little bit of the scalability. The next step is if I want to isolate work from one server to the next. And I can do that, but still manage it under one management console. So here I've created a second server group, Azure Local B, and if I had another server to add, I would click, again, you need a license to do this, I'd go out to my server farm, I'd click on it. That server would now be under the server group B configuration. Then I can go out to my network where I have my batch profiles configured and add these two batch profiles to this server group. And in this configuration, Azure Local B will only work these two profiles. Azure Local A does not have them assigned, so it will not, oops, let me remove this one. I added it twice here. Let's go add another one here, cat AP. So server B will work AA demo site and cat AP. Server group A is going to work these profiles. So I've distinguished work and separated them across two different server groups. So those servers will act independently of each other. Work will not be shared, but it allows me to yet manage it all as one system. So again, distinguishing factor and difference of our architecture and our product compared to others you might see in the marketplace. All right, so enough of server groups. Let's move on to batch profiles. Batch profiles are where we design our workflow. So if we take a look at this client batch workflow that we set up in the web demonstration that we showed earlier, this is what the actual process looks like underneath the covers. So this is a graphical workflow tool that we provide. It's called our Process Designer. It's part of the product, and this allows you to assemble your capture workflow using a visual experience. And each one of these particular icons on the canvas represent a piece of work that will be performed on a case inside of a batch profile. So in this particular example, the client batch process, we have a start event. The files you sent us were in PDF format, so we're going to convert those PDFs into images. And we have a little configuration routine, not programming, but configuration, to go in and set some attributes about this particular, what we call a QSX. Everything on this map that is done through automation is called a QSX, Quick Server Extension. If it looks like a piece of paper with a hand, that means it's a queue, and that's where people interact. Everything else is all automation. Okay, so everything here on this map that does not have the hand with the piece of paper represents the system performing the work, not people. Okay, so we've imported the files, hits the start event, goes to PDF to image, converts those to group 4 TIFFs. We do image cleanup on them. Image cleanup, we have deskew, and we can set some other parameters here. Then it goes to our document classification, QSX, which then takes the images and interrogates them based on these characteristics set up in our automatic document classification module. Too much to go into at this stage. We can talk more about that later. Then goes to utility. Utility basically is going to reformat the system date and time to just only the date field, because that was one of the requirements. Then we're going to send it off to our OCR module, and we're going to look for specific pieces of text in a given area or region of the document. We've got anchors and things in here to help facilitate positioning. Then we're going to automate after this process is completed, the database lookup. So we're going to take that name and we're going to perform an automatic database lookup against a third-party database. So if I just take a look at the external doc type here, WV external doc type in my list, external doc type, there it is. You can see the SQL query that's being performed automatically. If there are any exceptions, we have all kinds of different scenarios to handle different exception scenarios. In this case, we say all exceptions go to a verification queue that is assigned to a user or group of users to review. If it does not have any exceptions, I send it to, in this case, another QC type queue. This was just for the purposes of showing you what the data looks like when it is accurate and determined to be without error. And in real life, you'd have this queue removed probably, and you'd go right from DB lookup to the next event, which is status route. But I only put this stop gap in here to demonstrate during the web client demo what the data looks like when it comes across with all of this automation being performed without user intervention. What does the end result look like? If I didn't have this in here, I couldn't have showed that. So I assign users to queues. Okay, so this is how you can say one user has access or a group user has access to this queue, but not this one. So you can segregate your work according to users and roles that they perform. And then, route the information to the assembly queue or send it to the stop event. Now, what the assembly, QSX, not Q. What the assembly QSX does is now tell the system, you know what, I have some document level work that needs to be performed. So document level work is a different level, deeper, in terms of how we can continue to do some more automation on documents. In this case, I just set up an export routine so we can export not batch, but pages. Okay, so we're dropping down to a document level out of the batch, and we're going to export the documents based on document characteristics as opposed to batch level characteristics. And again, that's another discussion for a later time, why you choose one over the other. Different system architectures require different ways to handle exporting, and this is just one scenario that I could demonstrate. So I could show document level workflows in addition to batch level workflows. So here I've dropped down to a document level workflow, and I'm going to go to my export routine. And what this is doing is it's going to export the data, the metadata about the documents to this directory, and then it's going to export the images to this directory. And then it's also going to auto-name the image directory based on a client name field. So based on the index field here in the document index list, or keys if you will, I have a client name as a key or a field or metadata, whatever you'd like to call that. So this is what the user sees in the web client. So when that field gets entered, I'm going to use that field to automatically describe a subfolder underneath the images folder in this path. That's what's going on there. Then I'm saying when I go ahead and actually do the export, I want to log that information into the audit log. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about the metadata. I want to name the metadata file according to this string. Again, this is all set by the system without programming. It's all configuration. We have drop-downs allow you to configure this. The image file, how do I want to name that image file? Well, I've named the folder automatically. Can I name the image file automatically? And the answer to that is yes. So I'm using, again, fields within the document type indexing or key information, and I'm using that to describe the custom image file name. We can also do conversion of the image files to different formats with different DPIs. It's kind of a nice little feature. And then bring over the indexing criteria that I want to use to describe the file name. Okay, so that's what's going on there. Once I have all that set, I click OK. And once I have all this configured, one of the powerful features in our product is being able to design your batch and your document workflow without any coding. So you could see here, this was all configuration, no coding. To put it into production, I hit this Activate button. And what Activate will do is take my design changes and put them into production, and then make this now available to the system. To go ahead and start a new workflow process, either at the batch or the document level, it's the same process either way in terms of the methodology or procedure. I use the wizard, create a new profile, give it a name, click OK to that. I go select my new profile, WV from the list. It's a blank canvas, and then I can just start building my workflow without any coding or scripting required. So if I want, after I've scanned a batch, maybe the first thing I want to do probably is image cleanup. After I do image cleanup, I want to do barcode recognition. After I do barcode recognition, maybe I want to send it to an operator for QC. After I'm done with QCing, I want to go ahead and send it to OCR. Maybe after that, I want to automatically convert it to a PDF, and then I'm done. Okay, and then I just draw the lines between my process to indicate the way I want the workflow to flow. Okay, so that's how it is in terms of constructing your batch and your document profiles. Very simple, intuitive once you're trained. There are other things in here I could go ahead and dive into, but as far as the process design, I think this hits the major points. We do keep logs of what goes on from a process level into an audit table that can be reviewed. You can set dates on the audit table in terms of how long you want this batch profile to retain information in the log file, and then after that delete it or archive it someplace. So this is nice. And then you assign users to your batch profiles. There's different ways to assign users. This is just one way to do it. So this is how you grant access to a user or group of users to a particular batch or document profile. All right. On the subject of users, what we want to point out here with the user, we offer security in two flavors here. Security, we have an internal login authentication technology, encrypted, built into the product. So you can add users through our standard user administration module, but we also support Active Directory. So users and groups through AD is fully supported here as well. Okay. And I think at this stage, here's the audit log. You can go through, take a look at what's on the audit log. This will give you activity going on in the system, cases that are being run through, any errors, things of that nature, as well as successes. You can turn on the level of auditing, degrees of auditing. You can get errors and filters on that. And if you, from an administration standpoint, need to assign a case to somebody else or move it in the process elsewhere, you have this queue administration tool that gives you the ability to do that. So, if there's a case in a queue here, let's see if I can find one client. Here's a case. Quickly right mouse click on it, say move to, and I can reassign it elsewhere in the process. I can change the status of it, delete it, complete it, other administrative type features. Okay, well, thank you for watching this. Hopefully this was helpful in understanding a little bit more about CAPSYS capture, both the server administration and how you design and construct your capture workflows, and earlier the web demonstration on what the end user client experience is like. I appreciate your time. Have a good day.